Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Walhamdulillah. So today I'm going to kind of try to show how you can study your Quran in English. Because some of us just never reached the level of Arabic where we just read our Quran in Arabic. So we have to rely on the English, right? It don't matter which English translation you have, right? This is just how you can study it in English and do more than reading it. Doc Keith, let me grab a book. It's called The Weakness in Iman and Its Cure. And I'm speaking about this because Ramadan is finna come up, and it's the month of the Quran, where people want to read their Jews or whatever. But I want to show how possibly starting a little early, right? We're about 3 weeks away, possibly starting about 2 weeks in, so that you can do a little pondering and reflecting, tadabbur. Let me get a book real quick, Doc Keith. I want to read something from it. So, this is a very beneficial book. It's called The Weakness in Iman. It's Signs of Weakness, Causes, and the Cures. Now, it goes through, it's Dalil based. It shows Quran ayats, hadiths, for signs of weaknesses in Iman, right? The causes for having weak Iman, and the cures for having weak Iman. So what I want to do is touch on a couple of the cures. And see, I not every year, but occasionally I go through and read this. I read it a lot. This is also a book that I used to always give away for a Ramadan gift. I probably done gave away about 15 of these because of the benefit that's in them. So when you go to the chapters on where it says curing weak Iman or low Iman, sometimes you'll see those go hand in hand. Low Iman, weak Iman. Some people have an issue with the word weak. So when your Iman is low, and depending on which level you on, your low Iman might not look like the Iman of somebody where y'all not on the same level Islamically, even if it's just knowledge wise. You see what I'm saying? Like, let's say you're a person who pray all 5 prayers, you pray all of the sunnahs for those prayers, and you also fast. We'll say you're doing a fast of Dawood, which is every other day, right? For like 6 months, or you just doing it for a whole month. But then a person who just pray whenever they get a chance, they might not pray 5 times a day, right? Or they pray 5 times a day, but they don't pray any sunnahs. So when they Iman get a little weak, they might miss a couple of prayers. They might go a week or 2 and they only pray 3 prayers. You see what I'm saying? But then a person who's fasting every other day, and then they're praying all 5 prayers plus all of the sunnahs, when they Iman get a little weak, they might just break down the fasting 3 days a month. And then they might break down to just praying 5 times a day and not necessarily praying all of the sunnahs with the prayer. That's what I mean. So like when everybody weak Iman or low Iman doesn't look the same, but it's in accordance to where you at. So that's why this book is beneficial, right? But in this book, one of the first things, the points that it gives in curing low Iman, point number 1 is pondering the meanings of the Quran. Not just reading the Quran or what you think it means, pondering the actual meanings of the Quran. Sometimes you're going to need tafsirs for that. And, it was a sister in the comments that had kind of spoke on tafsirs. Tafsir Sa'di was written for your everyday Muslim. Tafsir Jalalain, which is a tafsir and just one book, and it just give a brief tafsir for every ayat. Tafsir Jalalain is more simple. Sometimes, depending on the route you're going, but when you enter the classes of tafsir, Jalalain is usually the first one that they start you off with when you enter a classroom. When I actually entered the classroom, Jalalain was the first one they started me off with. But due to the way I learned about tafsirs Ibn Kathir was the only one I knew about. So that's what I started with. Tafsirs Ibn Kathir was written for scholars so that they can teach from it. So it could be a little heavy. So Tafsir Jalalain is simple, but it's not as detailed. Right? So Tafsir Sa'di is kind of in between Tafsir Ibn Kathir and Jalalain. It's simple like Jalalain, but it's detailed. It's just as detailed as Tafsir Ibn Kathir, but on a basic level. So, like a person who just want that, like your regular, like if you're not really in a field of studying, and I want to be careful with my words. Tafsir Ibn Kathir is really for like students, people who's going to teach Islam, people who's going to be in the dawah. Not saying that your regular everyday Muslim can't read it or shouldn't read it. I'm just saying how it was written, and like it was written for scholars. It wasn't written, he didn't compile it for your everyday Muslim. It was compiled and written for scholars to teach from. So that's why it's so heavy. You could definitely learn from it, but Tafsir Sa'di gives you that flow. It's not so heavy. It ain't gonna quote 1,000 companions what they thought. It's not going to put a whole bunch of hadiths. It's not going to use a whole bunch of different Quran ayats to prove a Quran ayat. And it's not going to necessarily give you a whole bunch of Israeliyats. Kind of like stories and sayings from like Bani Israel. It's going to basically give you what the understanding that you should get from all those hadiths and this and that. And then they, instead of them quoting this and that, they give you the understanding that you should get from it. So that's why Tafsir Sa'di is more for the common Muslim. And that's why, like right now, you see a lot of people who doing tafsir classes, they're with the common Muslim, they're using Tafsir Sa'di because that's what it was meant for. You understand? So pondering the meaning. Sometimes you need tafsirs to really get the actual meaning, where you don't want to be stuck with what you think it means. Because sometimes, due to how you see things, it could throw you off. So as we start to look at a couple of Quran ayats, I'm going to show y'all exactly what I mean. So what it says is, pondering the meanings of the Quran, which Allah has revealed to explain everything and as a light by which he guides. You want to keep that in mind right there. Like if I was taking notes, that's what I would write right there. It explains everything, and it's a light by which we guide it. When you start, like, so in my head, different hadiths, different Quran ayats is going to start going through my mind to put them together. Because when you don't have that light, you're what? You're in darkness. So, especially living in the land of the kuffar, And look at the times. These are very dark times. You know what I'm saying? People levels of consciousness is low, where they refer to them as low vibrational. A lot of people is low vibrational. A lot of people have very low self-esteem. People aren't as educated and strong-minded as they used to be, based off of things like these artificial intelligence. Like you could take certain people from an age group before the internet, when to look up things and to do things, you had to use a dictionary. You had to use an encyclopedia. You used to have to, like, even when it came to stuff like, you just had stuff in your head. You know what I'm saying? Phone numbers. You knew everybody's phone numbers. Like, even right now, I still know my grandmother's phone number. I still know my best friend's phone number, who live on this block from the 7th grade, because his parents never changed it. My parents done had the same phone number my whole life almost. And I still remember it. But now that people don't have to use that part of their brain anymore, they not as intellectually sound. I want to be careful with my words. Their brain function isn't the same as the person who had to go through different things, because now they don't know how to really do research, because they feel like they could just Google it. And then with the Google AI, the AI is just going to pull any article or whatever that's just been put in there, not ciphering whether it's correct or incorrect information. You see what I'm saying? This is just something that was put about this subject on the internet. So in these times, this is making the times very dark. Even when you look at the people now, people at the point where people don't like being around people no more. Some people can't even be in relationships and marriages because people can't deal with being with people. And it's due to how rude people are, how people minds just not right. Some people have anxiety and panic attacks just from going in grocery stores. People just so antisocial because they used to socializing on social media. So the Quran is a light of guidance through these type of times. So that's how I would note that, because like I said, what's going through my mind about how the hadiths about how the deen is going to become, how the world is going to come, and what you need to stick to. So that's why I would have took this as a note. So it says, Allah guides whomever He wills of His faithful servants. There's no doubt that it contains a powerful and effective cure. Allah says, and we send down from the Quran that which is a healing and a mercy for those who believe. Right? The method of treatment is to think and ponder on its meanings. So when you keep that in mind, and it go on, it's more, but I just wanted to touch on that and explain why I'm going to try to show people kind of how to study their Quran in English, so that you can ponder the meanings and make it more effective. So just before I do that, I want to answer a brother question, which was valid, about the video I did about zakat. So, cause like sometimes when I be going through stuff, this and that, some people, and I'm going to say this, and I don't want to be insulting, but due to a particular group that I'm trying to figure out a soft way to say this, and just throughout time, when I started off on a soft way, it didn't work, so I I'm just going to tell people what it is and they can take it or leave it. And I probably need to, because like everybody who watch me on YouTube, I don't know personally. So some people who I know personally, I know how they accept information and I know how they won't. So I could deal with them accordingly. So I need to start being a little softer in my explanations, because I don't know like I say, everybody don't think the same. So I'm just going to be a little blunt. Due to some people who's not what they've convinced people that they are, they had this, but their way of doing it was the scholars. Yes, you should always do that. But a lot of what they talk about don't come from the scholars. But if they throw the scholars, if they put it in your mind, the scholars, this scholar, that scholar, you're going to take it. And don't even know if the scholar said it or not. So, alhamdulillah though, people should, so like, you can read them something from Bukhari. And you can read them 10 hadiths on that subject. And they can read 10 hadiths from Sahih Muslim on the subject. But then they'll turn around and say if it's something difficult for them to accept, or they just never heard it, because like I said, I seen the way hadiths was taken out of people's hands. People don't really turn to them no more. So then they'll turn around and say, well, what do the scholars say about it? You see what I'm saying? And then it'll start to break their heart, because now you finding out you're up on something that the scholars is against. So he asked me about the money with the zakat thing and what scholars say about it being food that you eat. which I'm laughing, because he wasn't being malicious or attackish. He was really wanting to know. You know what I'm saying? Based off of the people who was talking to him and the way they was driving on him, they the one who had a misunderstanding. So he just looking for some clarity. So I want to touch it, and I'm going to show you where it's going to come from. Usually, when the more you start to study and you go through real classes, they teach you how to be a researcher. Right? And alhamdulillah, you can research you can get pretty far for the basic issues that we had to deal with books, with English and the Arabic. But when they had an English, they be very close. Sometimes they may just use a word or two that may be a little difficult because they couldn't find an Arabic word to put in there. But you could get pretty close. So this right here is Fatawa, I always say Fatawa, right? Fatawa Islamiyah, right? So this is the permanent committee of scholars, and then they have some from different just individual scholars, and sometimes it'll show what all of them say on the subject. So right here, let me make sure I put it up there. This right here, inshallah, that'll show up clear. The food of zakat, right? So what it says is, the question was asked, what is the food that is permissible to give for zakat al-fitr? So now this one right here is from Sheikh Ibn Jibreen, right? It is reported in the hadith that it is to be given from 5 things, right? This is the hadith. There are wheat, there are barley, there are dried dates, there are raisins, and cottage cheese. However, from the research scholars, right, have mentioned that's specifying these 5 things was done because they were being used at that time. Therefore, they permit giving it from whatever is the common food of the land, like rice, for example, and corn in the land where it's used as food and so forth. It could be cooked. You know what I'm saying? You got to know the basis of what zakat is for. Now, there's also hadiths that speak on when they went to different lands such as Africa. One thing that they tell you, men, about the deen, you have to look at what the world and the earth looked like at that time. Saudi Arabia was an extremely destitute desert, dry land. Right? So look at that same time, and then you look at the landscape of an America 1400 years ago, where people were still hunting rabbits, squirrels, possums, but they grew things that would grow here: potatoes, corn, watermelons. Some of these things you couldn't grow in those areas 1400 years ago. And then at the same time, if it wasn't imported, it was just what grew naturally. So in some of the hadiths, when they was in areas like Africa, where Africa is such a big continent, certain parts of Africa is straight dry desert. That's why when you look at some of those areas that's dry desertish, you will see that the Arabs and stuff that went to Africa, they went to those areas that they was accustomed to, like Egypt, like Mauritania, these Sudan, these desertous type areas, because they was used to that environment. But when you look at your areas on the other side of Africa, where it rains a lot, different things grew. So in the hadiths, it was showing in these areas, they was eating different than what they ate. They was only eating what was either imported. They didn't have freezers. They didn't have refrigerators. So what they could store in desert heat without it spoiling. So other areas, when they go into Africa, they're eating something entirely different. Just like some areas that's not real desert like that, people don't have a heavy diet on camel meat. They're not slaughtering whole camels and eating camel fat. They're not making certain type of yogurts and stuff a way that they can mix some cream up that's spoiled, that don't go bad, like a yogurt, like a cottage cheese. So that's why so when you look at the other hadiths where they was going to other areas and people was eating different things and giving for their Eids and their zakat al-fitr, and it wasn't told y'all can't do that. And then when you look at more versions of the hadith, it said we gave from the food we ate, even cooked, even meat. And when you look at the reasons why they gave certain dry things, because this was a dry, staple area. It was 120, 130 degree desert heat with no refrigerators or freezers. When you put your mindset in that and think about how long ago, just picture in your mind, how often did they ever even drink something that was cold? Like we can go in the refrigerator and get a nice cold glass of bottled water. How often was they able to do that? If until like the cooler months came. A lot of their water, a lot of stuff they was drinking was warm. So you have to take all that into account. So from what the scholars say, and the scholars of research, yes, that one of the hadiths do name 5 foods. 5 things that they did, but that was the common food in their area. It was some people who asked Sheikh Uthaymeen about people who live in areas like Alaska. And you got to keep in mind, like when Sheikh Uthaymeen was alive, due to the internet, the world wasn't as open as it is now. So people in Alaska, they can't really see how people in Saudi Arabia live unless they go there. You can't really see how people in Alaska live unless you go there. But now, you could get on YouTube and watch people showing what Alaska look like and these cold areas and how they live, and people doing TV shows going over there eating. So anyway, he was asked about Alaska and how it's a cold area. So some of the things that they grow and ate in Saudi Arabia, you can't grow in Alaska and the Antarctic, where there's just, extremely cold and snow and stuff. And they eat like whale blubber and different things like that. They asked Sheikh Uthaymeen what was permissible for them to give for zakat al-fitr. And he said due to that region where they heavy on a lot of fish, and because they do a lot of fishing, you know what I'm saying, it's water, ice. They're not really, it ain't like a bunch of cows and stuff on the land, because it's snowing stuff in certain areas. So from the whale blubber and the different things that they use, you got to keep in mind, these years ago, 1,400, 1,000 years ago, 800 years ago, the way they had to live. It wasn't like where there's grocery stores where you can go to the store and buy wheat and stuff. But Sheikh Uthaymeen was saying how they can give from what they eat. They can give from the whale blubber. They can give from whatever you eat. You see what I'm saying? That's how Islam works. But so that's just some of what the scholars say. Some people who say you can't go outside of that, this and that, is because their madhab might say that. And then the people who saying it, that's just what they was taught, and they might not know it come from a madhab. They might think it's just 100% Quran and Sunnah, and they not really a hadith reader, although they might be the administration and the people who run your masjid. This is just a reality. And some of us going to always have our deen in the hands of people like that. You see what I'm saying? So then when it comes to the giving money, the ruling on giving money for zakat al-fitr. So the question, what is the ruling on giving money for zakat al-fitr? Because there is someone who says that it is permissible. Now you could tell by the question, the person who coming to the sheikh, he's under the impression it's not permissible. I was under that impression at one point in time that it's not permissible. And it got to be some extreme circumstances in order for me to give money. Because I'm from the old school. You see what I'm saying? I'm from the old school. I'm from hadiths. So if I ain't see no hadith, if I ain't see this and that, I wasn't budging. So this is Sheikh bin Baz. And he start off real beautiful by saying, it is unknown to any Muslim that the most important, it is not unknown to any Muslim that the most important pillar of the upright religion of Islam is a testimony that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The testimony that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah necessitates that one should be worshipped, none should be worshipped but Allah alone. The testimony that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah necessitates that Allah not be worshipped except with what the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sanctioned zakat al-fitr. What he sanctioned. Zakat al-fitr is an act of worship according to the consensus of Muslims. So consensus, this means ijma, even from the Salaf as-Salih. Not just madhabs, not just this. So consensus. When they say consensus, you can automatically know not every Muslim agree with this, but the majority understand this, right? And the fundamental principles regarding acts of worship is that they are tawqif, limited to whatever there is a text for. So therefore, this is what he says, therefore it is not permissible for anyone to seek to worship Allah with any act of worship except with what is taken from the wise person who was the source of Islamic legislation, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is the one for whom his Lord, blessed is he the Most High. So what's that a sophisticated way of telling people? This right here is what they refer to as hikmah. You're supposed to stick to the Quran and Sunnah. Anything outside of the Quran and Sunnah is a bid'ah. That's basically what he just said, but he used a lot of hikmah. Let me remind you, let me hit you with the reminders before I give you this ruling. That's called hikmah. right? So then he goes through he goes through, let me give y'all the Quran ayat, right? He the Most High said, Allah the Most High said, and this is Surah Najm, verse 3, right? And he, Muhammad, does not speak from his own desires. He is only a revelation that is revealed. I mean, he speaks only revelations that's been revealed to him. So if the Rasul tell you something or give you something, even in the form of a hadith, know that it is wahi. That's why, like, when some people use Aqidah, when they talk about Aqidah, and it refers to the books that were sent down by Allah, you will see the most sophisticated ones when they keeping it in English and they put, in Arabic, and they refer to books, they're referring to wahi. So that's why they consider authentic hadiths as part of what Allah revealed. You see what I'm saying? Some people, due to a lot of what people say, they're throw in the Bible is a book of Allah, so we can use that, but we're going to reject hadiths. And the Bible covers the Torah and the gospel. But so it's a tricky thing based off of your level of understanding. So I'm pointing this out to let the people know what's in authentic hadith from what the Rasul commanded due to this Quran ayah is letting you know that is a revelation that has been revealed to him. It's wahi. So some people who reject hadiths or don't deal with hadiths, they don't understand these are also revelations that came from Allah Azza wa Jal. They just wasn't to be put in the Quran because the Quran is based off of particular criteria that Allah Azza wa Jal set. That's why you have hadiths. But what's authentic is wahi also. Now, why other things can't be wahi if it's fabricated? Because somebody made it up. So you do have hadiths that's fabricated. How's it going to be wahi if it was made up? So then it says this right here. So he legislated, subhanahu Allah Azza wa Jal legislated Zakat al-Fitr to be that which is confirmed from the Prophet's authentic statements in hadith, a sa of food, right? So it could be dried dates, it could be a barley, it could be a raisins, it could be a cottage cheese, right? So then it go through about what we just discussed, how it's just the food of what you eating in your area, right? But here, hence, this is the sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarding Zakat al-Fitr. It is known that during the time of legislation and this giving of Zakat al-Fitr, dinar and dirhams existed. So they had money, right? They had gold, silver coins. All of this existed, especially in Medina. Among the Muslims, there were two leading forms of currency. They were the two leading forms of currency at the time, and yet the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not mention them in regards to Zakat al-Fitr. If either of them were acceptable for Zakat al-Fitr, he would have clarified that, as it is not permissible to delay explanation past the time of it being needed. But them scholars be chopping, man, right? If this explanation had occurred, the companions would have acted up on it. So just to shorten it up, he follows off by saying, right? From what we have mentioned, it becomes clear to the person who follows the truth that giving money for Zakat al-Fitr is not permissible, and it does not suffice for whoever gives it, because he is opposing what has been mentioned of the legislative as evidence. So, from the evidence and proof, it's not permissible to give money, right? How? So what did they do? They went and seen at some particular times where the Salaf Not all of them. Where a couple of them, due to some type of circumstances and what was going on, they gave money. Now, for those who understand Quran, Sunnah, Ijma. So because a couple of them gave money at a particular time, which the circumstances is unclear of why they gave money, at the end of the day, there's not Ijma on it. All of them didn't do it. All of them didn't agree with it. The majority of them continue to give food. And then this was further down the line. So that's why some people use this as the lil to give money. But again, what's the ijma on it for you to make it a ruling where people have to give money? Where you're going to say, this masjid, we're making you pay money. And our dalil is a couple of people from the Salaf did it this particular time. But there's not ijma on that. So you can't force it on the people. The most you can say is, due to certain circumstances, it's possibly that it could be a go. You see what I'm saying? So myself, what's an extreme circumstance where I may give money? Let's say I know some people who in like Irvington, New Jersey, but they pretty cool, they well off. And then they invite me to come up there for the Eid. Come up here for the Eid, you know what I'm saying? Get up here to woo out the woo. Now, I'm going to try to get there a couple of days early. I don't want to show up the day of the Eid. Zakat al-Fitr has to be paid before the prayer. So I want to get there at least 2 days early. I can't pay my zakat here. So let's say me and D's, what's up D's, you rocking? Me and D's go out there, so we get there 3 days before the Eid start. I don't know no Muslims. These individuals may be well off, but their masjid may be collecting money and they won't accept food. Right? We not storing no food. People don't want to come up here and pick old food up, this and that. We going through this madhab ruling. This particular one said this, even though it may not be ijma on it. Because like I said, when you go to the hadiths that I read before, where the Rasul gave us a choice. If we didn't do it at all, he didn't hold us accountable for it. After zakat came. So it went from being obligatory to a sunnah. You could choose whether you do it or not. So based off of those rulings, you could do whatever you want to do just within that legislated timeline. If you want to give it and you want to give money, you can give money. So if I'm in that circumstance and I don't know anybody and the masjid is only collecting money, and then the people who invited me out, right? The people who invited me out, they don't need no food. They're well off. They're taking care of me and the people who came with me. In a circumstance like that, if they say we want $20, we collecting $20 for everybody, this and that. When I get them the $20, my intention and my sincerity is for somebody to get some food with that money. That's so under circumstances like that, but you can see it's an extreme circumstances where it break down where I want to do something and my choices is limited. So like even when you look at the Salaf who did that, was they moving around? Was their circumstances, was their choices limited and they wanted to do something anyway, so they gave money. You see what I'm saying? So, and like this, I do this almost every year, and I don't want to talk about it. I don't want it to seem like a bragging aspect. So one of my teachers he's currently in the University of Mecca, right? Quran student, like tafsir student, right? Well, his main thing is Sharia, but he deals with tafsirs as well, but he's going through Sharia. So anyway, before the Eid comes, he'll put out a thing for anybody, like his students anywhere, where they be collect, because rice is a heavy staple in Saudi Arabia. So they'll have like 10 kilograms or 5 kilogram bags of rice. He'll put the price of what it's going to cost in America. You know what I'm saying? And then they'll issue out a bag to poor students that have a family, because some people over there with their wife and kids, and they don't have no income because they're students. They're in school. They have a small stipend. So they qualify for zakat. You know what I'm saying? And it's legit. It ain't like nobody scamming. You know what I'm saying? Just like a couple of weeks ago, they had a brother who having some rent issues problems. So they hit the thing up, pay the brother rent, but it qualifies as zakat, not zakat al-fitr. So I always have avenues where I can always give. Like, I know Muslims in other states. That's pretty cool, right? That I know them. Right now, in this day and time, the grocery stores, you can order online. So while I sit on with them, had them pull up the website, I pull up the website, put their address and stuff in there, and then they tell me what they want while they going through the address, and we on FaceTime, and then I put in an order for all the food that they want. I give them a specific amount. This is how much you can spend. What do you want from up out of here for you and your kids, or you and your family? Even if it's a brother. You and your kids don't always mean it's a sister with kids. It could be a brother, a wife, and some kids. What do you want? And then as they go through, this is the amount that I could give you. You know what I'm saying? Because I got an amount that I'm going to distribute through several people. And then we could go through the food list. I go through it, pick out the shopping cart, everything that they want, right? Their address, delivery time, and then place the order in it. It's going to deliver straight to their house. Even with Uber Eats, right? If there's some Muslim restaurants or some halal spots that cook food, you can order them some stuff that's already cooked and just have it sent to their house, and I could pay for it from here. And wallahi, these are things that I've done and I do. Your family, y'all want to eat from here? Y'all want this? The halal pizza spot, the halal, they got Muslims, man, who got allowed Chinese spots. Oh, y'all want some rice, this, some chicken, woo, out the woo? Boom, put the order in, wallahi, and have it shipped to their house. So there's ways and avenues that you could do it. Now, if I was in an area where I don't really know any Muslims who I could get a food to, and I'm either go to a masjid, they might not take food, I get the money to them. If it's a circumstance like that, I get the money to them. If it's not a masjid where I'm around, I'm in a city that don't have no masjid and this and that, and I know some poor people, under those circumstances where it break down all the way to the point where there's absolutely no Muslim or any Muslims that I know that I could give it to, then I'm going to make dua to Allah to accept it and just give it to any poor person that I know. But they really going to be poor. You know what I'm saying? You got to try to do what you can. You have people like Loon, Astaghfirullah, brother Amir. I hate to call him Loon, but most people know him by Loon. He had what's called paid meals. I do it during Ramadan. They have like an area in Africa where $3 a day is enough to give them a whole meal to break their fast. $6, they can have sahur and break their fast. And they had the food cooked up, the people cook it up. And like what I try to do is make sure I feed 1 or 2 people every single day for the month of Ramadan. You see what I'm saying? So, but I'll do it through him. Spot Project. The Muslims got a whole African orphanage in Africa, right? Some brothers from the UK. They got a girl one now too. And these don't have no parents, no nothing. So I could pay my Eid al-Fitr through them too. Where you could order like a whole lamb with American dollars be like $65. You know what I'm saying? Get $150, send them a lamb, have them purchase a lamb and a goat for them. $150 or cheaper. And so it just certain, you just have to be creative and be connected and try to get your zakat off. So like I said, because I know under certain circumstances, some salaf did give money. I didn't dig super duper deep to see why they chose money instead of food. But under certain circumstances, it got to break all the way down to where, okay, Allah, I'm in the circumstances where this is the only thing that I have. But it got to break all the way down to that. Where, cool, alhamdulillah, I'm going to go ahead and give some money. But my intentions is for somebody to use this money to buy food. That way if they do something different, you know what I'm saying? Because unfortunately, not to expose stuff, but wallahi, I done seen where people gave their money for zakat, and then they took the money and they divvied it out and gave people who they considered to be poor in the community an envelope of money. Right? For their zakat al-fitr or whatever. Because to be honest, some masjids just mix the whole thing together. Zakat al-fitr. So they 2.5, they put it all in one pot. And then they give it to the brother. This brother went and got some powerful dope and some drinks. And he was married to a Christian woman. And because she was so disgusting of him while he was super duper high in a chair like this, eyes wide open, she took pictures of him and sent them to every Muslim in his contact list and said, look at y'all Muslim brother. He came up there to got that money, and look what he done did. He sitting up here going off dope and beer. Like some slit small liquors. So sometimes you never know what people gonna do with that money. So your intentions, I'm giving this to this masjid with the intentions for somebody to buy some food with it, and you don't know who they're going to give it to. So inshallah, that money you gave go in the hands of somebody who really go buy some food with it. But you covered your bases. Allah, this is the only choice I have. That's why me personally, I just distribute it on my own. I know enough Muslims, alhamdulillah, that I could get it done some way. It might not always be in America. You know what I'm saying? So, alhamdulillah. So if that answered the question from the scholars, so like I said, you have some that say based off the dalil, it's not permissible. Then you have some who say it is permissible based on, you got to look at where they got their dalil from. Okay, it's proof that this person from the Salaf did this and that and did that. But is there ijma on that? Because you have certain things from the Quran, like the Alif Lam Means and, you know, Yasin at the beginning of certain Quran ayats, certain surahs. You have certain individuals from the Salaf that gave meanings to that. But there wasn't ijma on it. So just because one or two of them said, to me it means Allah, I'm the best knower, or me, I, Allah, am the all-seeing, because they give meanings to it, one or two of them did it, do that means we could take it as a ruling and start to say, well, we can give meanings to it if we want to. That's why isolated incidents, you have to be careful with it. And when it comes to pick and choosing, but I can see why they picked and choose based off the hadiths, that once zakat came in, the mandatory zakat, the 2.5% on your wealth, once that came in, what was done, what was mandatory, just became a sunnah. You have a choice whether you want to do it or not. So like they say, when it comes, just like your sunnah prayers, you can face any direction. You know what I'm saying? You can sit down, you can lay down. It don't hold the same standards as your fard prayer. So being that they look at it as a sunnah, it don't hold the same weight. We could give money. So there be some dalil for why they do it, but for me, because I'm from the old school, it got to break all the way down to the point where I can't give any food. I'm out of town, I'm traveling, I don't know nobody. You know what I'm saying? The masjid won't take any food. I don't even know where to go get no food to come give this masjid. And then the people who I'm with, they're well off. So they're not even considered poor who the food is supposed to go for. It's for the poor. You see what I'm saying? But the way we do things in America, and due to all these mixtures of Aqidas and made up Aqidas, the black way, the Pakistani way, the Arab way, the lines is so blurred. You know, they'll collect money. A side food, let's say a side food costs $30, right? Costs $30 for a side food. But then they collect all this money, and then they give a person who might be making $60,000 a year, then they get him an envelope with $200-$300 in it. Here go eat out 50. Here go envelope with 200. Here go envelope with 250. But you make 60,000. You make 60,000 a year. You see what I'm saying? Then this person right here who actually really need it, he might get $50. But it's still alhamdulillah. But at the same time, how y'all balancing it out and weighing out the money and who's the who's? So the line just get blurred. And you know, so just do what you can. So anyway, let me show y'all something with the Quran. And I chose some specific on how to study. And I'm going to use the clear Quran and the noble Quran, because I was also asked about the thematic Quran, like what's thematic, like what is that? So I'm gonna break that down too. We're gonna kill two birds with one stone. And I was also asked about the when I was saying about how the Masons went through slavery in the church. A brother asked me about it because he couldn't connect the Masonic part. You know what I'm saying? I guess I could take a minute. So with the Masonic thing, when you look at Masonry is an institution that pulls principles and morals from a lot of different places. They may use a Bible verse about some good. They may use some Greek mythology. They may use some stuff about astrology. They may use some mystic stuff from the walls of Egypt about different principles about the universe and how everything is one and it's all connected, and you need to be in tune with the cosmos and understanding this make you better in self, and this is going to make you a better man. That's their motto. We make good men better, right? So they have all these different principles from just pulled from all over the place, but they have what they refer to as a sacred volume laws, which is basically what holy book you're going to use. The volume of sacred laws. So your Bible, your Quran. If you're Muslim, you use a Quran, even when you're a Mason, right? The Tanakh, the Jewish book, and just whatever. You just have to believe that there is a creator, right? And they just pull from all of it as a means of trying to make themselves better people. But they kind of get detached from the religion aspect because they pulling from all over the place. We talking about what Allah Azza wa Jal has sent down, right? So they not necessarily religious, but they have a religion, and it detached them because not all of them, but some of them be wicked. And if you're an extremely religious person, not a person that has religion, a person that's extremely religious, you might not go for some of the underhanded stuff that some of them do to have control over the weak-minded people. So when you look at the structures that once they went into the black churches, you had to understand these churches became their lodges. They would have the meetings and stuff in the basement, they rituals and stuff, they doing them in the church, but at the same time they're using the church as grounds of recruitment. Okay, this person coming to church every Sunday, he got a wife, he got some kids, he got a decent job, because they want to know all that about you, where you work at, what your budget, what your income looking like, because they want to make sure you're going to be able to pay dues, fundraise, and help fund things. So it's a breeding ground. Not breeding ground, but I will say breeding ground, because they want your women, if your female is decent, they want her to be a part of the Eastern Stars. And then your children also become under that act if they're worthy. So the church became the new lodge, but also a ground for recruitment if they seen you worthy. So up out of that birthed these groups with that same structure. The Garveyites, the men inside, the women inside, the Mason, the Eastern Star, and it was also a recruiting grounds. You had to pay dues every month to be a member of it, right? You had to believe in they was heavily Christian based. So your volume of sacred laws was going to be your Bible, and then you had all these Masonic principles and structures on how to be a better person in this Masonic built society. So you had the Garveyites, then you had the Hebrew Israelites from the 1800s, who was basically under that same structure. You had to pay dues to be in it. They had secret little movements, just like the Garveyites. If you wasn't one of them, you wasn't going to know their teachings. You had to pay dues, you had to do fundraisers, and your volume of sacred law was the Bible. Then you had Noble Drew Ali, the Moorish Americans. You got the men, you got the women, Mason, Eastern Star. And they also grounds of recruitment. If you came into a Moorish Science temple and they looked at you, peeped out your lifestyle, then they pulled you in through the other door. And they made you a Mason. You see what I'm saying? Because all of them was Masons and Shriners. Noble Drew Ali was a Shriner. He moved all the way up to a level of a Shriner. So if you came through that door and they deemed you worthy, they turned you into a Mason. But the whole structure, you got to pay dues, you got to help with fundraisers, you got to buy these books. You can't talk about Moorish American business outside of the temple, and all of them. You got to be a card carrying member, just like with the Masons. You got to have a card, right? Then they will wear like their little pins. Then you can see that birthed all the way to the Nation of Islam. Even where they had a pin, they was all Masons, same structure. But you got to believe in some type of religion, and that's why Noble Drew Ali and them, they pulled Buddhist, Confucius, Bible, Quran, same way like the Masonic Temple. Nation of Islam, exact same format. Muslim, the women on this side, men on this side, women on this side, and the teachings is all made up just like with the Masonic teachings. It's stuff that they just pull from everybody else. So they make up some lessons and they're giving you that, as opposed to like the Nation of Islam. They giving you all this Far Muhammad stuff, but your volume of sacred law was the Bible mixed in with some Islamic principles. That's why they was ministers. But their whole thing was basically, we're just making good men better, not necessarily religious. That's why, so when War of Deen came up out of that same movement, that's why their version of Islam is how to make you better in this society. That's why they say that version of Islam, that Arab version of Islam, isn't making us better as black people in America. It does nothing for us as black people in America. It'll help you if you over there in that desert. That's why I mention that, because that way of understanding how to be better in your society was birthed through Masonry. You see what I'm saying? And then the way that their ranking system is, those things have rank. Just like in Islam, you don't have a rank. You have an imam, you got a sheikh, you got an ustad. But there's not like a ranking system where I have to obey you and jump when you say jump because you're the imam. Like the Nation of Islam, like War of Deen them had, like Noble Drew Ali and them had, like the Hebrew Israelites and them had. And those things, you could all get kicked out of it or killed. Just like with the Masons. You can get kicked out of it or you can get killed. And you have to fall in line. When I do this, you better know how to do it back or else. So that's why some of those black versions of Islam, just like those black versions of the preachers, where they getting this hustle on, but we're not trying to really necessarily make you a religious person that's putting you on a life that leads you to Jannah. We teaching you how to carry yourself in this society and get rich so that you can pay them tithes. Because everything that's sending you to the hellfire is permissible for you to do. You could be an alcoholic, you could be a fornicator, you don't have to be married, you could be an adulteress, you could be a child toucher, you could be a rapist, all of these things. under them acts, except for the Wardeen community. You can't sit around and be no rapist, and you can't be all of that. But like if you in the inner workings with them and you that, they might not tell on you. You know what I'm saying? They not gonna necessarily promote it, but when it comes to covering properly men and women, you don't need to do none of that. If you running around here selling dope and being a fornicator and you cheating with one of the brother wives and all that, or you got girlfriends and boyfriends, even if they non-Muslim, no, we ain't gonna say nothing about none of that. So the things that necessarily call you to Jannah, they've been taken out of play for, well, this is what make us better black people in America, which is a philosophy that birthed out of Masonry. And you can see how they came through the organizations once they went underground into the churches. And see, I know a lot of this stuff because my father was one, my grandfather was one, my uncles was Masons and Elks, and my grandfather, his brothers, they was all Masons, and I grew up around it. You know what I'm saying? Even to where my grandfather, he joined several different branches of it. He was even a member of the White Masons. Okay, so a lot of that stuff, man, that they had going on, as far as the religion aspect, they didn't really have it. You know what I'm saying? But how to be good, outstanding members of society, at least looking like it. Yeah, see, this stuff made us better, and that's why people don't understand the birth of those Wardeen communities when they saying that stuff don't help us be better Muslims as black people in America. This isn't a black people's religion, B. You don't know, you don't understand the roots. So therefore you don't understand the fruit that tree bears. And you probably wasn't of age, or you didn't pass, they didn't look at their recruiting grounds and take a look at you and be like, okay, yeah, you fit the mold. Let's pull you behind these closed doors, and now we gonna make you a Mason along with us. Therefore, when you get out of line, you gonna get out of line. You understand? We gonna put belt to that A. You see what I'm saying? See, some of these people, they will obey the architecture of those designs, but they won't pay. They won't obey the laws that Allah Azza wa Jal set. You understand? So that's why I mention them. So alhamdulillah, and when you know, and you can see the whole structure and the foundation and see how it's being seeped into Islam. You know what I'm saying? And you know, just like you seen a point where a lot of Christians, they was Christian, but they would be like, they not really religious. Right now, you get to the point where a lot of people Muslim, but they technically not religious. And then when they are religious, what people consider to be religious, those particular black groups is going to refer to that as Arab stuff. All that studying Quran, all that studying hadiths and learning all that Arabic, and you sitting around and want to study all that stuff about those people at that time, right? That ain't going to help you be a better black man in America. And then from those, you had the derelict versions. So from those groups, they started to birth a militant version like the Black Panthers. So they somewhere in between, which when you go through and look through it, you will start to see some of them was Masons too. and they had to pay dues. They got the women's side, they got the men's side. You got to pay dues to be a member. You could get kicked out of it, or perhaps you could get killed. So from them came the gangs. We got our literature. Nobody else can know that literature. You can get kicked out, or you could get killed. Masonry. Just dirty versions. You see what I'm saying? So when you understand that, and then you can look at this structure and see how it really weakened our society. It didn't really build us up. We worse off now than we was in the 60s and 50s. But anyway, let me read this Quran ayat, man. let me show y'all how to study this Quran. And I'll probably do another video because I didn't want to technically take as much time on that stuff. But so look, Surah 6, and we're gonna use ayat number 152, right? 151 and 152. So look, say, O Muhammad, come, I will recite what your Lord has prohibited you from. Join not anything in worship with him. Be good and dutiful to your parents. Kill not your children because of poverty. We provide sustenance for you and for them. Come not near al-fawahish. And then in parentheses it says shameful sins and illegal sexual intercourse. But it's a little bit more to it, like bad speech, cursing, lying. These also fall into those things, right? So, but I guess shameful sins should cover that. Whether committed, so now out of the parentheses, whether committed openly or secretly, and kill not anyone who Allah has forbidden, except for a just cause, parentheses, anything that's in accordance to Islamic law. Out of parentheses, this he has commanded you that you may understand. 152. And come not near to the orphan's property except to improve it until he or she is in parentheses because it's implied, right, attains the age of full strength and give full measure and full weight with justice. He burden not any person but that which he can bear, and whenever you give your word, parentheses, judge between men or give evidence. So this is more than just you saying I'm going to do something and you stick to it. This is also when, let's say some people want to give a divorce or somebody done stole from somebody and you have to place a judgment and be honest about what's going on. That's also implied, right? Say the truth even if a near relative is concerned. So even if it's your son, your mother, your wife, your father, your grandmother, even if they done did somebody wrong, you got to speak the truth on it. You can't be lying for your kids because they're your kids. But for the Muslims and us in America, and we know how we is, us urban Muslims, when it comes to the Muslims, let me put that in there because I know I'm going to get a comment. So if your Muslim kid do something to another Muslim, or your non-Muslim kid do something to another Muslim, you can't be lying for them when it comes to the Muslims, all right? And fulfill the covenant of Allah. This he commands you that you may remember. Right, so that's 151, 152. Now, I'm going to show you thematic. Now look what it does in the thematic Quran, which we're going to use the clear Quran. What I just read was from the Noble. Now look, and this is in the thematic Quran, and you can see where I already have an asterisk because this is an ayah for me to go study, and I got it written down with an asterisk in the beginning of my book with a footnote. Now, when you come to a thematic Quran, at the top of those ayats, it puts Allah's commandments. So now, boom, this is the theme. This is the theme of what you're supposed to get from those ayats. Now that I just read them, it might not necessarily click like that. Oh, okay, these is Allah's commandments. So when you studying them, when you studying your Quran, you do this right here. So boom, the theme of these ayats is these is Allah's commandment. So when it says, say, O Prophet, come, let me recite to you what your Lord has forbidden for you. When we see the word forbidden, we know what? Or prohibited, these are the things that's haram. So boom, let's say I'm taking notes. So I'm going to put things that's haram, also Allah's commandments. So boom, because this theme done already grasped me. Allah's commandments. Do not associate others with Allah in worship. So boom, that's one commandment. Do not fail to honor your parents. 2 commandments. Do not kill your children for fear of poverty. 3 commandments. Then up under that, I'm going to put abortion. Because some people have abortions because they not sure. We ain't ready for kids. We ain't got the money. We might not be able to take care of them. So abortion falls under this category as well, right? Not to mention like the rulings on abortion because of a soul isn't in the baby until a certain amount of time. So without going into that, which I would also have a note, research the Leo for technically when it's considered to be a human life. So far we got 3 commandments, right? Do not kill your children for fear of poverty. We provide for you and for them. So Allah gonna take care of y'all. Don't worry about being poor, right? Do not come near indecencies, openly or secretly. So boom, that's 4. Put an arrow up. Indecencies in Islam, etc. Because we want to make sure it's not what may be decent in the country you live in might be an indecency in Islam. For example, what's an indecency in Islam for men? Showing above your knees. Like, let's say you're a lifeguard. Or you one of them cats on the beach, or you're a bodybuilder, and you sitting around in some panties for men doing this. Or you on a beach with a whistle in a high chair and some panties for men. That's indecent in Islam. Women, hair all out, fat eyelashes, weave down to their back, all this skin showing. Shirts with bras with padding in them to enhance your bras and make your breasts look bigger. You know, shirts that snugger that fit your form to make your breasts look bigger and make your stomach look thinner. Pants that make you look more shapely and hippie, make you look a little thicker. Like back in the day, apple bottom jeans, lowrider jeans. These things is indecencies in Islam. Just to a level that some people may not think of because they regular and common in the society that we live in. All the way down to what we talking about in public. Don't be all in hijab, all at the grocery store in line with your girl talking about who couldn't knock the bottom out of it and who could, and girl, he was like this and girl that, all at the grocery store and restaurants where people can hear you. These type of speeches and things is indecent in Islam. So come not near indecencies in Islam, openly or secretly. So we gonna put on top of that, in public or private. You understand? Sitting around in a throw, sitting around in the throw and a Kofi with a fifth of Hennessy all on a TikTok video or live stream on you. That's definitely an indecency, Daki. So these things are indecencies, or being an all black hijab, right? Proper covering, but you twerking in a TikTok video. Or might not be twerking, but you bent over, you gyrating and moving your body and all of that. But you in proper hijab. These things is indecent because it makes the Muslims look like hypocrites. So don't come near these type of, and indecencies can fall under a lot of things, right? So when you look at the noble, so when it comes to the noble, they just worded it as do not come near to, and then they just show you what the Arabic word is, al-fawahish, right? Look and see what all that is, and then in parentheses, shameful sins and illegal sexual intercourse, right? Shameful sins. These things is shameful to the Muslims. You should be ashamed of yourself doing this as a Muslim on TikTok and all this stuff, but we don't have that shame. So when you look at this one, it says, do not come near indecencies, openly or secretly. So see how they both kind of saying the same thing, but based off of your understanding, one might understand this one better, and then one might understand that one better. But they giving you the same gist of what you should get from it. But you need to go look into what's indecencies, what's fawahish, right? Now look at this. Openly, do not take a human life made sacred by Allah, a soul that's not permissible for you to take. Another Muslim, we ain't gonna go into that, except with legal rights, except what's based off of Sharia. So what we have now, this is 5 commandments by Allah, right? This is what Allah has commanded you, so perhaps you will understand. You understand? Now 152, and do not come near the wealth of the orphans. 6 commandments. Now, in Islam, any child that doesn't have a father is an orphan. Whether their father is a deadbeat or their father is in prison. Now, let's say, because in America, and this does happen with Muslims, unfortunately, a Muslim woman, and I'm only saying this because wallahi, I do know a Muslim sister that got pregnant by a married kafir. And he didn't want to have nothing to do with the kid because he married. He's sticking with his wife. And his wife accept the side baby, but you can't bring that baby here. And his wife had it going on a little bit more than him, so he bow down to her. So she come to me about, well, can I put him on child support because of the taghut? I wish, you know what I'm saying? That's the taghut, because she, although she's from the serious super Salafi side that hate everything that's not a part of their group, although she's pregnant by a kafir, she's talking about I can't take him to court for child support because he's from the taghut. Child support is part of the Islamic system. If you go to Muslim court over there with a deadbeat father, they're going to issue out some payments from his income. We are obligated from a portion of our earnings to take care of our children, i.e. child support. Now, it's just the part where in Islamic court, you can't just go put somebody on child support out of malicious because you mad at him because he don't want to be with you no more, or you don't agree with how the breakup turned out. Because You have people who be great fathers, who be taking care of their kids, might even be spending $500-600 a month on their child, but then the mother get mad at them and take them as child support as some type of punishment, and then be like, now I'm gonna keep your child from seeing you and still take your money, but then child support issue them out less than what that actual father was doing. That ain't gonna happen in Islamic court like it can happen here, but hey, that's that man's father. If he's not gonna have nothing to do with him because he's married, and you're gonna have a baby, yeah, take her to go to child support court. Child support is a part of Islam. You know what I'm saying? That's just some of that rhetoric that those Salafis that don't like anybody, not all of them, use to get out of taking care of some of their kids. Oh man, that's the Taghut. We don't deal with the Taghut. That ain't the way of the Salaf. Yeah, I guess it ain't the way of the Salaf to take care of your kids either. But yeah, so like these real circumstances. So my point is, if you had that father who not having nothing to do with it, but they're taking care of the kid through child support, or they giving you the money but won't pick the kid up, if you start taking from that money and not really taking care of the kid with it, because we just gonna be real, some women they go get their hair done, they go get nails and shoes done, they go fix themselves up with that money so that they can attract another man to pull in and pay bills that they don't have. Some of them don't even have no rent or no bills on Section 8 and government housing. So you have to be careful, because it's possible that you could be stealing from an orphan. So do not come near the wealth of an orphan unless it is intended to enhance it, to double it, invest it, but you still can't mess with that money. So what? So until they attain maturity. And we know that maturity doesn't mean 17, 18 in Islam. But until they're able to handle their own money. Measure and weight. Give full measure and weight with justice. Do good business. Like they used to have a thing like where they had barley and wheat, where you can wet some of the barley, put it on the bottom, and then put a bunch of dry barley on the top. And when you wearing it in a mud or something like that, there's water in it on some of it at the bottom, which is making it heavier. So now you could charge more. Or where they had like some dates that's probably finna be rotten in maybe 3 days. They'll take them and put them in the bottom and then put a few good dates on top. So the majority of the dates you getting, they gonna be rotten in a day or two. And the Rasul actually came through and dug through somebody's dates and pulled them up and said, don't do this. At least allow people to see it and give them an option whether they want to buy it or not, because they might go on to eat all these dates up in one day. So this is what it means when you're doing business, man. Do good business. Don't be ripping people off, right? So then, and it says, we never require of any soul more than what it can afford. Whenever you speak, maintain justice, even regarding a close relative. So you got 8, 9, and fulfill your covenant with Allah. You understand? This is what Allah has commanded you, so perhaps you will be mindful. Have taqwa. Indeed, this is Allah's path, Allah's straight path, so follow it and do not follow other ways, for they will lead you away from His way. This is what Allah has commanded, so perhaps you will obtain taqwa. So I think I might have left one off, but anyway, boom, this 9 commandments from Allah. I need to study these, learn the do's and don'ts. Learn the do's and don'ts and implement. So, thematic is letting you know Allah's commandments is coming. Right? Let me count these commandments and then look into them. The noble might not necessarily give you that. That's what make it thematic. So we know Allah's and every ayat has a theme to let you know what you're supposed to be getting out of the ayats. So when you're studying, so even if you can catch it without it being thematic, and it says, "Come Rasul Allah, let me inform you what Allah wants, what Allah has made haram." When you read them, count them, and then go look into everything that you looked at. Write them down. Take a note of them. Okay, this 9 things. This 10 things. I need to go learn the rights of these things so that I can implement them. You don't just read the book. You just read the Quran and be like, alhamdulillah, I read some Quran ayahs today. Now, the original theme of what we're talking about is how to reflect on the meaning of the Quran. Right? And how the meaning, reflecting on the meaning of Quran, cures the weak Iman or the low Iman that some of us have. We might find that we're violating. We might find that we're not decent. When we ponder on it and really reflect on the meaning of indecencies in Islam, we might not be decent. You understand? So these things can help raise your level of Iman, because Allah Azza wa Jal, He stamped this by saying what? He stamped it by saying, indeed, this is my straight path. This is Allah's straight path. This is Sirat al-Mustaqim. So follow it and do not follow other ways. Don't deviate. Don't deviate from this path. For if you deviate, it will lead you away from Sirat al-Mustaqim. This is what Allah has commanded. So that's 10 right there. Stay on Sirat al-Mustaqim. You can add 11. Don't deviate. Although that's the same. Don't deviate, because it's going to lead you astray. You know what I'm saying? And this is what Allah has commanded, so that you may obtain taqwa. So when you start to learn how to study your Quran, and you could do this in English. I ain't had to use no Arabic. So you can study it in English, because some of us, it's all we're going to ever have. I don't have enough Arabic to go through the whole Quran and just get through it without having to look up words, without having to do this. Sometimes I even have to go to English tafsirs. You see what I'm saying? But everybody don't have tafsirs. Everybody don't have hadiths to get them through this. Even when you go look into these right here and look at the rules and the regulations and the do's and don'ts of these 9-10 things that Allah commanded us to do or stay away from, where you gonna get it from? Hadiths. See how the Quran and Sunnah go hand in hand? But some people reject that. Or, oh man, that ain't gonna help us be better black people. That ain't gonna change our condition as black Americans. Hey man, we ain't Masons. How y'all not gonna make us better by disobeying what Allah Azza wa Jal commanded? You understand? So the philosophies can be flawed. And this is how that type of stuff seeped into us once these Masons went underground into the churches. And then these groups formed up out of it with Masonic principles. You can have your book. You can have your Bible. You can have your Quran. You can have your Tanakh. You can have your other whatever the book is. And yeah, that's cool for you to call those laws out. But you need to abide by these principles that we stole from the Egyptians. And this astrology and these philosophies that we got from Socrates and this and that, because they're going to make you better. See that religion, it make you passive. You know, you might become too religious and might not want to become a billionaire. You might want to be a zahi. You might want to live your life in accordance to Zud. We don't need that. We need go-getters so that they can pay these dues. A better you is a better me. You feel what I'm saying? People don't even understand that slick type talk. See, a better you is a better me. The better you do, the more I'm going to have. That's why sisters be needing real wakils. They be sitting around some old slick talking brother, even some Muslims. Man, baby, you know what, baby? A better you is a better me, baby. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, princess? The more you do, the more I don't have to. But anyway, man. So anyway, that was just something brief, man. Inshallah, man, some people could benefit from it. And like I said, start early. No matter what your English translation of the Quran is, put two of them together. Because just like how like on my app, the app that I use to keep in my phone, you can go and mark which translations you want. I always have the Noble Quran and I always have the Clear Quran as translations. So when I pull up one ayat, it's going to give me both translations. Sometimes when you look at both of them, it's almost how they say two heads is better than one, unless both heads is dumb. You know what I'm saying? But it's almost like looking at it where it's like, okay, looking at it from this perspective in English and then looking at it from this perspective in English, I get a stronger understanding. Then I go look at the Arabic and sit down and say, oh, now I understand why they chose this word or these words to translate it as. But I need them training wheels. I ain't gonna front. I need them training wheels. And that's why I've always, I say I probably in my lifetime, man, I done read so many different versions of the Quran. And I ain't gonna lie, I benefited from all of them, even the Ahmadiyyan ones. Because I started off with Ahmadiyyan Qurans not knowing no better because of the Nation of Islam. Because it wasn't that much in it that was that bad. It's really only a couple of ayats that be controversial. Like when it comes to Allah's throne, like them Ahmadiyyans, they may say he established this power. Like the Clear Quran don't do that. You see what I'm saying? Things that don't come from tafsirs, you know. But a lot of them Qurans have been pulled out of circulation, and they've been pulled out of the circulations. I don't even think they made it to the 2000s. You know what I'm saying? So like if you didn't buy one in the 80s and the 90s and all that, you might, if you find one, it might be in a thrift store or somebody selling them on eBay, you know, or they might try to publish them and they get underground. But then once the Saudi government and the Sharia governments find that they in circulation, they could send like a cease and desist. And then that publishing company can't print anymore, and whatever they have, they got to pull them out of circulation. Like whatever's in the warehouse. So a lot of them Qurans, man, haven't really made it in the circulation like that no more. And like I said, the Yusuf Ali, the mistakes they had, they done been took them and pulled that stuff up out of it. But alhamdulillah, man. So whatever you have, when you see stuff like that looks like commandment and its orders, count them. If it say, this book is for, like in Bakra, this book is for those who count that, those who are truthful, those who do, those who did, count those down. Take a note of them. Okay, this is 4 qualities. This is qualities for who the Quran is going to work for. Because like it say, I'm making this too long. Let me just give y'all another little gist of it. Like in Surah Al-Baqarah, I'm pretty sure what the ayahs I'm talking about start at the beginning, right? So look, Alif Lam Mim, right? This is the book, there is no doubt about it. A guide for those mindful of Allah, those who have taqwa. So then it's going to go into what those people are. O you who believe in the unseen, right? The Gharib. Those who establish prayer. Those who give zakat from what we have provided for them. And who believe in what has been revealed to you, O Prophet. The Wahi. So we know that Sahih Hadith is a part of that. Based off the Quran ayat, the Rasul doesn't speak from himself. He only speaks from revelation that has been revealed from him. This also falls in line with Hadith. And in the Quran ayats, where Allah Azza wa Jal say, I sent down the book and the hikmah. That hikmah is that sunnah, that wahi that you're going to see in hadiths, authentic hadiths. So you count that down, right? And it says, believe in what has been revealed to the prophet and what was revealed before you, right? So we believe in it, but it may be abrogated just like certain Quran verses is abrogated. It's not that you act in accordance to it, right? So this is also a thing, right? And you have sure faith in the hereafter. So boom, here goes 6 categories you could count off right there. Write your 6 down. How do I go and look and what's the true meaning of these? And how do I become the true obtainers and establisher of these things? And then it says, again, it is they, the ones who understand these, implement these, right? Properly, Quran, Sunnah, Ijma, these are the truly ones guided by their Lord, and they are those who will be successful. You can stomp in America, urban Muslim Americas, you can stomp the majority of them out just on the part where it says those who pay zakat properly. You can get pulled up out of that right there. Those who establish salat the way, not make salat, the way salat is supposed to be established. Who have an area established in their home for salat. So when you understand the hadiths, the rewards, like I put on the board, is rewarded, multiplied by 10 up to 700. Some of y'all stuff, you might have a little bit of it going on, but you might not reach up to the 700. You might not even reach up to 50. Right? But these is the ones who's truly guided by Allah. So you want to look at these things. We counted about 6 things. And it's saying the book, this is a book, there is no doubt about it, a guide for the people who have taqwa, who believe in the unseen, who establish the salat, who pay the zakat properly from what we provided for them, who believe in the wahi, and who believe in the wahi that came before, and have sure faith in the hereafter. It is they who are truly guided by this book. You want to meet those 7 criterias. Now, look, even with the thematic, look what it says the theme of this ayat is. Qualities of the believers. So the ones who meet these 7 criterias properly, the Quran is going to be a guide for them. It's going to be that light, like we started off. It's going to be that light in the darkness that's needed. Because these is dark times, man. The next one, qualities of the disbelievers. As for those who persist in disbelief, it's the same as whether you warn them or not. You ever seen somebody, man, and you just constantly every single day of the week trying to warn them and try to put them up on game, and they're the exact same as they was before you ever even said anything to them. You can warn them every single day for a month, and it don't even do this much good. This is what the Quran is talking about. As for those who persist in disbelief, it's the same as whether you put them on game or not. They never gonna believe. Allah has sealed their hearts and their hearing, and their sights is covered. They will suffer a tremendous punishment. So what that's letting you know, the Quran ain't gonna be a guide for them, because they didn't fit this category of who the Quran is going to guide. Allah ends it by saying these are the ones that's truly guided by the Lord. But the ones who you sit up and try to put them on and talk to them and tell them every single day of the week, and it's like you never even said a single word to them, Allah's letting you know what's going on. Then it comes, and that's the theme of the ayat, qualities of the disbelievers. The next one after that, qualities of the hypocrites. That's what a thematic Quran does. I know this done got long. I promise y'all, I'm finna end on this right here. Let me give y'all a beautiful one. Surah Al-Arab, right? Surah 13. Now, at the beginning, before the whole surah starts, it give you like a paragraph or two, the whole thing of what you should get from the surah. Now, let me show you how certain surahs are connected. Look, this chapter, which takes its name from the thunder in the verse, ayat number 13, elaborates upon the last verse of the previous chapter, the last verses of the previous chapters, starting with 105. So, Surah Yusuf is the surah before it. So, Surah Yusuf has 111 ayats. Starting at 105, this from 105 to the end of it, this surah starts to elaborate on ayat number 105 of the last surah. So they're connected. You see what I'm saying? The theme is connected. So it elaborates on a previous chapter starting with ayat number 105, relating to Allah's magnificent signs in the heavens and the earth, which are met with neglect by the deniers, Allah's knowledge, might, and unwavering support for his prophets, the authenticity of the Quran, and warnings to the disbelievers. The chapter touches the qualities of the believers and the qualities of the disbelievers and the reward for each. The reward the believers is going to get and the punishments that the disbelievers are going to get. All these themes are reiterated in the next two chapters. So the end of chapter 12, starting at 105, connects to the 13th chapter, and then 14 and 15 is also connected. So 13, 14, 15, and the end of 12, all of these surahs is connected by a common theme. But without a thematic Quran, or without you taking a thematic Quran class, you won't know this. And other Qurans won't give it to, they don't give it to you like that. Like I said, I didn't even know it was a thing until I took the very first class on it. And my mind was blown. And by this being just one book for you to read, a summarize, there's way more to it. But they can't squeeze all that information into one book. So as for the ones who sitting up there talking about what the scholars say and what scholars preceded you and that book and this and that, man, y'all turning people away from Khair. You should fear that. This book might help people understand the deen better than the Noble Quran. But due to the misguidance that y'all have, y'all misguiding others and don't even know no better. But y'all using rhetorics like, oh, the scholar, what about the uli man? But you don't know what you're talking about, but y'all using the right words to not know what you're talking about. They should fear that, man. They should fear that. Just like using the word, oh, the silent, what are the silent, the movement of the silent. Y'all got the right words, but the wrong direction. And that's just as dangerous as some of these people that y'all considering to be off of it. Because like I said, with all the beauty and understanding, this helps you understand and implement the Quran better, and y'all gonna turn the people away from it based off of some batil, or the scholars warned against it from some statements that some scholars made about the use of Ali Quran 2-3 years, maybe even 4 years before this translation even came out. Man, cats need therapy, man. But anyway, man, it's too long. My apologies. But alhamdulillah, inshallah, man, some people benefit from it. I know some people who mind just can't come up from out of that funk. Gonna be in my comments. So what? You know what I'm saying? But this is just what come with it. So y'all take from that, man, and start trying to figure out how to study your Quran in English so that you can ponder up on the meanings when Ramadan comes. Start early. Count them things out. Alhamdulillah, this is the qualities of the believers. Act like the whole book is talking to you only. It's not talking, and then that's the way you're going to correct yourself. This is Allah talking to me. I need to get it together. Because Allah, these ain't threats, these promises. You understand? These is promises, man. And like I say, it's a very beautiful statement. You need to be careful who you take from. These is not known. We don't know what it is. And then the crazy part is, out of 10 qualities, y'all fall under 9 of them. The right rhetoric, the right philosophy, just in the wrong direction. Know what I'm saying? But anyway, man. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And look, hold on, let me end on this. One of the super Salafis, my people though, right? A sister, one of my peoples. I caught them watching Shadeed Muhammad Jumar service yesterday. I caught them on there, but they was all in there salaming and everything. Cause like you can see in the chat, why it's live, they all in there salaming and stuff. And I hit him up, man, and told him you kicked off the minhaj. I see you listening to Shadeed Muhammad while he was live, listening to that cook bar. They couldn't do nothing but crack up laughing. They was cracking up, and then they said, "Hey man, dude, cool, man." You know what I'm saying? I was always listening to them until they said something, and that's what happened. See. And I ain't gonna lie to y'all, man. I know a lot of people, man, that listen to not only him. And yeah, somebody hit me up talking about how did I know when I said the sister said that the sisters was teaching Hamza Abdul Razak wife. Oops, I ain't mean to say that. But his wife had some group on Clubhouse, and they was teaching Shadeed Muhammad's marriage class. So a person asked me, just because the sister said or it sounded familiar, how did you know that it was Shadeed Muhammad class? Because he wrote a book called The 10 Marriage Commandments or something like that. So he was reading from his book. That's how, not only how did the sister know and call me to let me hear it, that's how we both knew, because it came from a personal book that he wrote and still sells. And this is because when he writes a book, he'll do a class explaining and teaching from the book for the people who buy it, or people listen to it and be like, okay, wow, I want that book. And he said the beauty of it is when people write a book, it's good to hear from them reading it and explaining it as opposed to somebody else. Because what y'all have now is people who trying to explain to y'all books that people wrote 1,400 years ago, 1,300 years ago, 1,200 years ago, but they don't have the schooling or the education to explain that book to you. So I'm the person who wrote it. I'm the one who compiled it. So it's better to hear it from me. So that's how we knew it was from his book. But the people who's in that group, they not allowed to listen to him, or they're an innovator. If they get caught listening to him, now they're an innovator. They kicked off the minhaj. But Hamza Abdul Razak's wife, oops, teaching from this man book in the class to the sisters, and they don't know it because they can't listen to him. And they don't know it from the book because they not saying this is from Shadi Muhammad book. This is just a class on marriage, which happens to come from Shadi Muhammad's book. But anyway, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.